All right, welcome back, everybody, here for the Division III boys basketball tournament coverage. Wanted to hop on here and get a chance to talk about that. A pretty busy week with school last week, so I wasn't able to get on here last weekend like I had hoped, but a little bit of a better spot now, so happy to hop on and got a very special guest. Coach Miller joins us once again. Coach, great to see you.
How's it going, Drew? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. So we got to talk about this. We got the Final Four coming up now. We know three of the teams that are going to be playing in it. The one that we don't know is the winner of that Mascoma versus Fall Mountain game, with the snow kind of throwing a wrench in everybody's plans. That was supposed to already have been wrapped up by now, but they're going to work through it and do the best they can. You got Silas against Coach Nate Haskell, so that'll be fun. I'm curious to see the result of that. But starting off now with, I think, the elephant in the room, the big thing at the top of the bracket, you had Kearsarge go to Dairy Field and take down Dairy Field. I had that in my bracket. What I did not have in my bracket, and I don't think many people had in theirs, was Belmont, 18-0, number one seed, undefeated, losing at home against Kearsarge earlier today. And you had Eli Whipple going out and scoring 39 points. I know you got the chance to coach against his brother more than you got to coach against him, but just what is it about that Kearsarge team and the way that Coach Camp always coaches his teams that kind of gives you that chance as an underdog on the road in the playoffs?
I think there's a lot to be said for the experience that Camper has just as a coach in the playoffs and throughout the season. He knows what it takes. He knows what it takes to be special and do something that maybe you're not supposed to be able to do. And he knows what buttons to push and how to give his guys the freedom to go and make the play and take the chance to go have that performance that Eli had today.
Yeah, I would agree. I got the chance to watch them battle back from being down by like 20 points at half against a really good Gilford team at home. They only lost by 3, nearly came back to win that game at the end. They have grit, they have resilience. Want to say, I have a lot of respect for both coaches in that matchup, both Camp and Coach Martinez. I had the privilege of calling the championship game last year for YCN with those two going up against each other. Belmont won that game by 6. So a little bit of a revenge game here for Kearsarge. Mm-hmm. They had an excellent year. Talk about losing their players from last year. You had Keegan, Anakin, Trayshawn Ray all leave that team, and the way they've been able to rebuild around Evan Martinez. And I don't even want to say rebuild, like reload, to go from state champs to undefeated number one seed in the bracket is quite impressive. So shout out to Belmont. Great season. Shout out to Kearsarge for what they did and being able to take down Dairy Field in the first round and then being able to beat Belmont. Now we just had the result of Gilford taking down Stevens like they did earlier in the season. These two teams met in December. You got Coach Aquilano, who's back in the Final Four. He had a great run there with the Reese brothers. They won 4 state championships in a row and are trying to go on their own little run now once again and kind of reestablish themselves at the top of Division III basketball. I got the chance to watch both teams this year. Stevens is good. They have Owen Wilkinson. He's done a really nice job. He scored a lot of points for them throughout the year. And also Tyson DePaulo transferring over from Newport to go to Stevens this year. So I'm sure that game was a battle, but it looked like Gilford had control in the end of that one and won that one. So, Coach, just Gilford, the program, the experience. What do you remember about coaching against Coach Aquilano and his teams?
The thing for him, and you can say this about any coach in Division III, I think it's such an underrated class of coaches top to bottom. There's so many amazing coaches and men in there. But he's one of those guys that you need to be perfect against if you want to beat him. You get guys like Camper that are so good at building his guys up and giving them the strength to go forward and take the chance. Rick's groups are always disciplined. They always execute. They play hard on defense. They get out and run on you. They don't leave many windows to go and get through them to go and take them down. And that's one of those things that, looking at that score, I think it was 48-35 was the final. Yeah, 48-35. That's a low-scoring game. So his guys stuck in on defense. That was a playoff atmosphere, grinded out. Battle it out. If you're not getting rebounds, you're not in it. If you're not stopping the transition, you're not in it type of game.
They have a lot of guys out there who can serve a lot of roles. I got to see what Mark Euchre could do. I've been able to cover him in football a little bit. He's a good football player as well. Gavin Forrest had some nice plays. Henry Sleeper and Owen Hawkins really did some really big things for them, made some plays. Not everybody's a scorer on that team, but everybody plays hard on defense, which I think is something that you need to win in the playoffs. And clearly that's what's gotten them through these first 2 rounds. So now we're looking at the matchup of Kearsarge taking on Gilford in the Final Four. And I'm going to talk about this for a minute because I got to see this exact matchup just 8 days ago, I think it was, at the end of the regular season. That was at Kearsarge. So you would think, okay, Gilford won the last one at Kearsarge, so Gilford will have a little bit of an advantage. But you got to also think about it. It was a close game. Kearsarge nearly came back and won it. And they're coming off the high of that Belmont win. So they have kind of the wind at their backs, but you can never take anything for granted. I'm sure Coach Camp is preaching that message to his guys. So I'm excited to see how that shakes out. That's going to be, I know Guilford's the considered home team, but it's going to be at Bedford for the semis now. That's where it is. This time go around, it was at in the past when you were the head coach for Hopkinton. I know it was at Goffstown, moved to Bow for a couple of years, and now they're over at Bedford. So it'll be fun. Bedford's got a nice gym. Their programs themselves have had some very successful years with state championship teams recently. Both of the teams winning the championship last year, which is impressive. And then I think the boys won 2 years prior against Pinkerton, and the girls won back to back when they had Kate Allard, who's now playing at Boston University. So it should be a great gym. A lot of fun for that game. I think everybody's excited for it. Do you have any predictions about that, or you just think it's going to be a great close game?
I think it's going to be a great close game. I think one of the things that I've really noticed the most about looking at like the stats for these two teams is you have Gilford with 3 guys that are double-digit scorers in the regular season, and then you look at Kearsarge and you have 1. So it's really going to come down to, does Kearsarge have somebody else that can be special? Because Gilford's going to try to take away Eli and limit his damage and make him create scoring chances for other guys. So can somebody else step up and do that? If they do, I think Kearsarge is going to be tough to knock down. If Gilford executes on defense, I think they walk away with it.
Those are some good points there. I think you did a nice job of highlighting that one. A guy who I look at who potentially could be that next guy for Kearsarge is Bragan Kinzer. He scored over 30 in that game. I think he had 33 in that last game I did for the 2 teams 8 days ago. So they can have those guys. I know Davin Boley has stepped up sometimes. There's some games where he only has a couple buckets, and then all of a sudden he can turn it on and score over 10 points, 15 points, what you need. So it's just about getting guys in the right spots to have the opportunities. I think Gilford's going to do a good job on locking down on defense. I don't think Whirlpool's going to be able to score nearly 40 in this one, kind of like we said. So it'll be a defensive game. I see it not as high scoring as the previous matchup, being 73-70. I think this one could be in the 50s, maybe 60, but I just expect it to be more defensive this go around. Now, absolutely, you got Mascoma and Fall Mountain. Coach Haskell's done a very nice job with them. I had him on earlier this year, back in December. I think it was late December, early January. And he talked about, like, he's got his guys, he's got mostly seniors, so they're going to be a very hungry group because they're a very senior heavy team. They kind of remind me of Campbell from last year, because Campbell was in a similar boat with Justin where they had a lot of seniors, and then they kind of had a lot of those guys graduate and lost them over the off season. So this is kind of really like, okay, we got to do this now because we're not sure about next year. Not saying we're not going to be good. I think Coach Haskell does a great job, but they're going to have a lot to make up for next year for sure and figure out. So you also have this Mascoma team who's only lost 1 game all season. It's at home, and the 1 loss was to Hopkinton. So another really, really good team. I'm curious to see how it goes. I think hosting a game there is always a big advantage for Mascoma. They have one of the best fan bases in Division III. They always come out and support. It doesn't matter where the game as their fans are going to show up. I remember when you were the head coach of Hopkinton and we were playing Gilford in the Final Four at Goffstown. It was Mascoma versus St. Thomas in the game before us, and walk into that gym with you and the guys and just how loud that gym was when Mascoma was up because their fans travel so well.
Yeah, no, Mascoma is absolutely one of the hardest gyms to go into. It's tight. You're on top of everything. There's no room to breathe on that sideline as a coach, as the players. It feels like the fans are jumping across the court at you. It's going to be packed shoulder to shoulder. It's going to be loud, and Mascoma and Silas do such a wonderful job of feeding off of that without getting themselves too up and taking advantage of that and really using it as a weapon, in games.
And they've gotten Pierce back this year. They've been able to get their guys healthy when they needed them. So I think it'll be fun. I think this game favors Mascoma, but not saying that Fall Mountain can't go in there and win, because we know what they're about. They're a team that nobody wants to see on their schedule. I think I've heard that from a lot of coaches this year, certainly. So what they were able to do, hats off to them, because last year was their first playoff home game in a very long time, over a decade, I think. And then we jump to whoever the opponent will be of that winner. Hopkinton back in the Final Four for the first time in a couple of years since you were the head coach, with a win over St. Thomas. Coach Morissette, a lot of respect for him, certainly has done a great job with the guys he's had over there. Won the state championship 2 years ago, was back in the Final Four last year and lost to a really good Belmont Red Raider team. So I think that was a good game today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make that because I had to do some lacrosse broadcasting, but was happy to do that. But when you look at this matchup, you had the Hawks winning against St. Thomas, who you have some younger guys on that team, but you also have some guys from that championship team left over who had that experience. So I think this was a huge win for the Hawks, and what a nice turnaround they've had from year one with Coach Liam going 7-10, and now this year, whatever they were, I think they only had 2 losses during the regular season.
14-15-2, something like that. Yeah.
And now they've won a couple, so 17-2 at this point. Hats off to them and what they've done. I've really liked Normand and the way that he's developed. Yeah, Jackson Westover, who's helping out. There's a lot of great guys that you can name from that squad, but you made the decision to step down, and Coach Liam became the head coach. Is there anything you can speak about with him or any of these players who you actually coached? It's actually funny sitting here and looking at the stats and, like the scores and stuff, and having talked to Liam sparingly throughout the season. Occasionally I send him a congrats on the win, or, great job text and, whatnot. But, seeing Ben, lead the way with the team as the leading scorer doesn't surprise me at all. He was a kid that was just that close to figuring out how to do it. When I was coaching him, and to see him take that step and really find himself and become the scoring guy on that team, and the kind of the go-to person, matched with, Jackson Westover, who he is a workhorse of a human. He will battle, he will grind, he will bang you up inside, he will make you earn every bit of it the entire way. You got Christoph, you got Kyle, you get those guys that can just go on heaters to score, that can defend well, can stretch you out, can get you inside. I'm not surprised after 2 years, Liam was able to find his rhythm with the guys and implement his system and his team philosophy into it, and kind of take him where he wanted to go. It's great to see the way that they've developed along. You're watching a new head coach kind of at the younger end of his career. When we look at coaches like Coach Camp, who have been doing it a while, like they have a lot of that stuff figured out. There was always that real passion with Liam, and I think now that he's gotten more experience, it's cool to see the way that he's been able to progress. Also, hats off to St. Thomas, hats off to the run that they've had. Coach Morissette, you can argue is the best coach in Division III. I think he's right there. Him, Coach Camp, a lot of great coaches to mention. Don't want to leave anybody out. Tony, the job he's done at Belmont, but just, you get what I'm saying. He's done a really good job with them. You don't wind up a state champion and then, back making deep playoff runs the next few years unless you have a really good coach. So just respect to them and what they've done. Now that we're getting into it, Do you have any predictions for the way you think things are going to go with this bracket? I'm not saying like you can pick a winner if you want. Mine was Belmont. I released my bracket even though I didn't get a chance to do a video, and now that's totally out. So I think it's wide open. It's anybody's bracket now. But any thoughts whether it's who you think's going to win or what style of games are going to have to be played for certain teams to win and get into that championship game?
Yeah, no, it's a hard one. Like I said, with Belmont kind of getting knocked out in what was a high scoring game at that, very unexpected in that. So I think it's really wide open. I mean, you have a 9 seed in Kearsarge that could go and win the entire thing, and then the rest of the bracket could be chalk with Mascoma if they win tomorrow and it's 2-3-4. And I really do think it's anybody's game, but it's semifinals. It comes down to defense, and can you have that one special moment? Can you have that one quarter that sets you above the other team and then hold on to it? Can you dig in deep? And you're going to have, no matter who wins out of Fall Mountain and Mascoma, you're going to have 4 coaches that know what that looks like. Whether, Liam as an assistant coach and a player, experiencing that. If it's Silas or Nate, Rick and Camper, you got a whole bunch of guys that know exactly what that looks like and what that takes to take that step and do it. So I think it's going to be some really good battles, and I'd be shocked if either game had a winner that was a 12-point lead or higher. I think they're going to all be single digits or very low double digit wins that come down the back end. I don't think there's going to be a real walkaway blowout in any of them.
I agree. This is something that we've kind of been talking about through the season. There was kind of a shift, I feel like, in the play of the division throughout time. It was from most of the time I was in high school, it was Gilford was the front runner, the favorite, destroying a lot of the teams. And then you had Hopkinton, Mascoma, Kearsarge. Those teams were around and trying to be that team to make a run and get to Gilford and knock them out in the playoffs. But they were the prohibitive favorite. And then the past couple of years, kind of after the Reese brothers left, things opened up a little bit more, and St. Thomas looked really good. They were able to win. Then you have this Belmont team last year, who was like my number 4 seed in the preseason poll that I did with the coaches. And everybody's like, oh, Belmont's really good. Belmont's really good. And that was a team that we had thought about as a good team. They had Coach Tilly and were developing and getting better throughout those years. And then really Coach Martinez coming in and able to put the finishing touches on that. And the culture that he's built up there was crazy, incredible to see them win last year. And then you're thinking, oh, gosh, they have this whole young team. They're going to go on a run like Gilford and win 4 in a row or something like that. And then all of a sudden, Kearsarge takes them out at home. So I think it shows you just how special it is what Gilford did and just how hard it is to win a championship and to win multiple championships, especially. So that's kind of the main story that I take away from this playoff bracket now, with everything being more wide open, like we saw in previous years compared to the Gilford years, where it was, okay, there's this strong favorite, and are they going to win or not once they get to those final 2 games? So like you said, wide open. We'll see. I hope that we're able to call the championship for YCN next week in Keene. That'd be a lot of fun. It's always a great atmosphere at Keene State College. Any additional thoughts from you, or just things you want the viewers to know? Because we haven't had you on in a long time, so I was really glad to have you on tonight.
I mean, honestly, the only other thing I think I'd say is, even though I don't know if I can pick who would win it, I'm definitely rooting for my Hawks to go and get there and see Liam bring that championship banner back to the nest in Hopkinton.
Yeah, it'd be kind of poetic when you think about it, because it's been 60 years since the last one, 1964, 1965, 1966, three-peat. And then there's been a lot of really good Hopkinton teams since then, but none of them were able to get the job done. So you have that narrative. You have the Kearsarge taking out Belmont after coming up short last year, and now they're on a revenge tour to try and go win it this year. You got the Gilford, who was the strong top dog, and now all of a sudden they're battling back to reestablish themselves at the top. You got Mascoma, who's been really good for a lot of years and been close. Can they finally get it done after a while's absence? And then also Fall Mountain, the team with a lot of seniors who was completely out of it for a long time, and then kind of became relevant again last year. So a lot of great storylines. I'm excited to see how this thing shakes out. And then obviously got the girls bracket too. So that'll be fun to talk about as well at a different point. But I'm excited for all of it. And thanks again so much for coming on, Coach. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure chatting some hoops.
Please subscribe to the channel and like the video to help me expand my local sports coverage. Thank you.